You may be seated. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Eric.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
Do you want to tag team this sermon?
I think we should do it together.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay,
All
let's do it.
My friends, tonight the gospel passage is, of course, about birth. The birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ. When we think about birth, we might first think about it through an individualistic lens. We don't think there are many actors involved. It's just the person giving birth and the child being born. But if we step back, get some perspective, and look at the larger context, we realize something very different, in fact. From the first days of a pregnancy, through the birth of a child, through the raising of that child, it's not an individual act. That whole process of nurturing and giving birth to life is only possible when the person who's giving birth is surrounded by a large community of nurture and support. Mr. Rogers, of the famed Mr. Rogers Neighborhood, recounted a story from his childhood where he remembered watching the news with his parents and seeing some frightening things on the news and feeling scared. And his mother noticed this, and she responded by telling him, whenever something goes wrong, look for the helpers. Whenever something is challenging, look around and you'll find at least a small group of people who are ready to mobilize and act to address the issue. Likewise, when we think about someone carrying a child in the womb and bringing life into the world, into a world that is chaotic and often scary, we know that we have to look to the helpers. We know that it takes a whole community of helpers to bring life into this world and to nurture it.
So I'm thinking we should probably name a few helpers, shouldn't we? But before we do that, Eric, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Were you once born?
I was born, yes.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to look out here, and maybe around here, and over here, got it? And I'm looking at a lot of people who also may have been born. Does that sound correct? Okay, that's great. So now we all have something in common here. And I'm sure, so we've all been connected to the process of birth. But we have a lot of helpers that help with birth in our own context here today. And I think of some of the helpers, kind of the unsung heroes. You know, we do have our doctors and our midwives and our nurses, but I think about our hospital translators and people who work in hospitals specifically to translate between patient and care provider. And during birth, that is such an important job to be a helper because the person giving birth is at their very most vulnerable. And so having that communication is good. Mary was an immigrant. And perhaps here, if she were, let's say at Broadlawns, she might need those services as well. But I also think about the fast food workers that are open at like 4 a.m. when there are cravings or when a water breaks. They are there with hot food that is ready to go. And I also look in this room and I see a lot of wisdom sharers. To bring a child into this world requires a lot of wisdom, from generation to generation to generation. And I see a lot of generations here in this room. Eric, can you think of any helpers?
I think of the family, both biological family and chosen family that we have, that accompanies somebody as they're carrying a child, that is sometimes in the room whenever a baby is born. And then that creates this hospitable space. I know that St. Andrews does it, that makes quilts and makes food and offers to watch a kid while you sleep for 10 minutes or take a walk or whatever, right? There's all these expressions of family that I think we experience here and the ways that people step up for each other when they're bringing life into the world.
Absolutely. So we read a story, and there were a lot of helpers in that story.
Yes.
Okay, so we have the angels. The angels They played a part in that good communication, because we need good communication. And they shared the news of Christ's birth. Now, all of our helpers don't have to be human. I know we're kind of focused on that, but can you think of that donkey or colt that Mary had to ride? For like 100 miles she had to ride. That donkey or colt is quite the helper. And I'm also thinking of somebody in this story who wasn't mentioned that much, but they were mentioned. And that would be the innkeeper. I can imagine all of us wanting to help out to the best of our ability, and sometimes we want to help more than we can. But this innkeeper, who we don't know, but I'm assuming, wanted to help and give this family a room, but with no room, they were able to give a small barn.
I think the innkeeper gets sort of a bad rap.
Right?
But maybe they did the best that they could, right? The inconvenience and the hospitality, they figured it out. It's like, we don't have any rooms, but we're going to make space for Jesus here.
Absolutely. So here we are on this Christmas night. Oh, and I hear a lot of shushing, parents shushing. That's okay. Make a joyful noise. We're all in this here together. Yes. That's my girl, Kaylee. So tonight, here we are, celebrating the birth of Jesus, God's divine Son being born tonight, so that we, all in this room, all of us who have also been born, might be adopted as God's children. And tonight is the night that Jesus, the perfect image of God, is born to show us the nature of God, that God is love and that love conquers all. And there are scary things that are happening in our world, and we don't want to shy away from that. There are scary things that are going to happen in this world, and we won't shy away from it. But what we do know here tonight is that the Christ child was born as a sign for all of us to know how much we are loved. I have a question for the kids in the room. Kids, you happen to be the best helpers in this place. Can you come up and help me for just a minute?
And as they're coming up, I think there's
Yeah,
somebody we didn't name from the story.
Who did we name?
Shepherd.
Wait, come on up.
This is good
Yeah,
timing.
yeah.
All right, everybody, gather around.
Forgot the integral.
Gather around. There was one other group in this story that we didn't talk about, the shepherds. There wasn't just one shepherd. There was a huge group of shepherds, and they were actually the first people to hear about the birth of Jesus from the angels. And their job was to go tell other people. And so, do y'all like candy? Yeah. You do? Okay.
Does this look like a shepherd's crook? Can we pretend? Can we just use our imagination and pretend with all of our might? Yeah? I think I've got more yeses than nos up here, so we'll go for it. All right. So you wonderful helpers and messengers of God, will you go and proclaim Jesus' birth to all the world? And will you do it with your shepherd's crook in hand? Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, St.
Come and
Andrews.
get your candy cane. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, little shepherds. You got that. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Oh, I'm so glad we have enough too. Merry Christmas, everybody. You got what?
I want,
You want this one? Which?
I want red.
You get red. You just get this one. Red is important. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Tanner. Oh, here you go, Amelia. Merry Christmas, Chester. Merry Christmas, Michael. Of course. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Is it possible I can spread the joy of the Lord to myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When are we gonna do candles?
Okay. All right. Just give me some love. Just give me a high five.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Well, when I like